Hello and welcome to Home Instead's new podcast, Talk Franchise, where we'll be giving you an insight into the world of franchising. On today's episode, we've got Martin Jones, CEO, and Ruth Brown, COO of Home Instead UK, and we'll be looking at the why. Hope you enjoy. So, Martin, let me come to you first. Could you give us a bit of a potted history of Home Instead?
Yeah, I think Home Instead started way back over 30 years ago now with Laurie and Paul Hogan, who were looking after care for the grandmother, Grandma Manhart. And quite simply, they were trying to keep the grandmother at the home in safe, and they had a large extended family, and they couldn't actually do that. So Paul, being into franchising at that time, came up with a great idea around a kitchen table called Home Instead. And the brand actually came out of Grandma Manhart's mouth when she said, "I just want to stay home instead." So that came from the heart. So all those years ago, it started in the US. It was brought to the UK in 2005. And just shortly afterwards, we opened our first office in Chester. And we took the franchise industry by storm and revolutionised the social care sector by introducing relationship-led care, which was truly different than anybody else in the sector. And then we were acquired by Honor Technologies a couple of years ago, which really propelled us into a different space in terms of technology enhancing people staying at home and the kind of high-tech, high-touch care we've got now today.
And what was it that brought you to Home Instead specifically?
Home Instead was a brand I hadn't recognised before I come across it 12 years ago, but I was looking after my father. He had prostate cancer. I'd been in the retail sector before that, and I was the main carer for my dad. And I couldn't actually balance looking after my father and being in retail, because retail is very fast and full on. So I set up my own consultancy, looked after my father, and unfortunately passed away in 2011. And then I made the call, I don't want to stay in retail. I want to do something more rewarding. I don't want to do something that's all about profit. Came across Home Instead, met Trevor and Sam, who were the owners of Home Instead at the time in the UK. And the rest is history, because, my biggest regret for my father was that he was in a hospice and I couldn't actually get him home. The social care sector was then and still is in a state. And my biggest regret in not getting out of hospice to pass away at home, really resonates with what Home Instead do today. And that's serendipity. Here I am today.
Mm-hmm. Ruth, was there something specific that brought you to Home Instead as well?
I think similar to Martin and many people at Home Instead, they do have a personal reason. I was also in retail, doing over 4,000 miles a month with my previous role, which probably is against the law actually, but I was out on the road quite a bit. My dad sadly had a stroke. My gran then needed some support so I could take the weight load off my mum. I stepped into that role. And it was interesting really. It was Home Instead probably wouldn't have been a role I would have gone for because I was having a really bad experience with social care at the time. I had a local authority provider looking after my gran, and it was pretty shocking what I was seeing with her. But I went along and met with Trevor, who at the time was trying to revolutionise social care in the UK, and I just fell in love with the whole proposition. It was everything I wasn't experiencing, and so I got on the purple bus 14 years ago, put my seatbelt on, and I've been on ever since.
There's clearly something personal that draws people to this brand, whether it's care professionals all the way to us at National Office as well. So thanks for sharing those. And Martin, I know recently you were honoured with an MBE. Mm-hmm. Would you like to tell us about why and maybe the significance of that for you as well?
Yeah, I was honoured and humbled to receive the MBE in the King's Honours List 2023. And I do, I'm passionate about older people. I'm passionate about making a difference in the sector. So I'm a trustee of Age UK. I'm trustee and chair of the Care Workers Charity. And I do a lot of other things surrounding older people because it's about making a difference in this sector. We've got a lot of older people. We've got an age wave. The society and government aren't waking up to the opportunities and the challenges that presents. So I was honoured to, for the work I do with the Asian population, and that's why I was awarded the MBE. So, yeah, a complete surprise at the time. Truly honoured in that sense. But what it does do, I really use it as a voice to make that difference for older people and push against the barriers that are there, because we do live in an Asian society, and that's home instead. That's what we do as well. We push against the barriers and really insist upon the care that people deserve.
Ruth, what makes Home Instead as a brand so unique, and why is that so important for someone who's interested in joining as a franchisee?
I think there's loads of layers to that question, but I think we always talk about the fact that it's the people first and foremost. It's the care professionals that we choose. It's the key players that kind of surround the care operations at local level. It's the franchisees that we've chosen as partners. It's our national office staff, and obviously it's the way that we've pulled all those different stakeholders together. But I also think on top of that, once you've got the right people, it's the model that we've created. We pioneered, as Martin said, the relationship-led care side of things. But what that meant is that we don't deliver care with anything less than an hour. We always introduce care pros to clients. We don't wear uniforms because we want to have that relationship. We invest heavily in the training of our people, and we match. So there is an opportunity for a relationship to blossom. And I think by having all those different facets to the model and the right people behind it, it means that we're able to deliver a really outstanding service and really make a difference to the clients and the families that we look after.
And just to build on that, I think what bonds all that together, as Ruth just said, is what we stand for. And I think that's the value set that we've got and the culture that we build that's adapted through our growth of our business. There's a lot of people, a lot of brands out there try to emulate what we do, and they can't. So they may say they match, but they don't. They may say they're getting on one-on-one in terms of the introductory bit, but they don't. And that's what makes Homestead unique. But that culture and value set with all the different people, as Ruth said, bringing that all together, that's what gives the secret sauce.
And one of the things, Luke, is we talk about it all the time. It's easy to say that you do all those things, but to be able to deliver on them consistently is a challenge. And we've never compromised. We've always stuck to the values and the way that we deliver care. And because of that, it means that there's a consistency of the way that clients receive their service across the UK. So when we ask franchisees who are looking at joining us to do their due diligence, we always say just dig underneath the surface. I know other organisations are saying that they do the same thing, but are they? Really question that, because quite often you find that they're not.
And just digging a bit deeper, why do you think that is such a challenge to implement those things and to ultimately stick to the model so strictly?
Yeah, I think for me, it's understand the why. So, why we match our care pros and clients, why we are doing relationship-led care. Because, in franchising, to emulate that's difficult. And in the social care, it's really difficult. People talk about being, patient-centric, being older person-centric, putting them at the heart of everything that we do. But they don't understand why we're putting the clients at the heart of everything we do. They don't understand why it's really important to do the introductions. They don't understand why never have a stranger turn up at your doorstep. It's not a tick box. It's not about task. It's really about that relationship. So to peel back the onion to really understand what that means, if you don't understand the why and you haven't come from a great culture and a great value set, they'll just never get it. But they'll copy it, but they just won't quite get it. So there'll be an extra 10% that won't be there because the care pros don't understand why they're doing what they need to do.
And is it fair to say that once you do get the why and you stick to the why so strictly that it becomes easier to do that?
No, well, it's an interesting question because at Homestead, as we've scaled, that's been our biggest challenge. How do you keep that essence of what made us so different and so special? And that comes from what Ruth said before. It's about the franchisees that we recruit at whatever level, whether that's a resell or new territory, understanding that this is not just about profit. Profit's a reward for what you do. It can never be the reason for doing it. It's about the national office team really going through a thorough process and ensuring they understand what we do. Because, if you're sitting on, an IT help desk, for example, and you're answering calls to support owners, you may forget, well, actually, where's my why? What difference do I make to the end client? What difference do I make to the care pro? But it's all about relationships. It's our relationship with our franchise owners, the franchise owners and the key players in the offices, key players and the care pros, and obviously most importantly of all, it's the care pros and the clients.
Yeah.
So we don't make widgets, we don't move boxes around. This is about relationship care, and there's people at the end of it.
Fantastic. Thank you. So we've spoken a little bit about the model and why it's so important. How does that impact franchise owners and the way that they have to run their business day to day?
So I think one of the first things was when we first came to the UK is that we weren't able to tender for local authority contracts. Local authorities were commissioning 50-minute calls. It was very much about runs. And so we really needed to carve out a new part of the market, which was the private pay market. So that means that they were having to go out and meet RPNs, as we call them, referral providers like nurses and doctors and pharmacists, to really build relationships that the next time that they come across Mrs. Smith and who needs help, that they will think about Home Instead and the franchisee that they'd met. I think where we are now today, and it's kind of a lot of the work that Martin's doing at national level and the franchisees are doing at local level, is about how do we really educate and pioneer that actually budgets can be spent in a way that enables personalised care and relationship-led care. Still a long way to go with that. But it has definitely meant that we've had to carve out a particular part of the market for us to be able to continue to stick to the model that we've got of the hour minimum and the relationship-led side of things.
And I think that it's also important, Ruth hit upon a really good point there. The advocacy that owners play on a local level, yeah, we do it at national level, and we're trying to influence government ministers, etc., and what have you. But that local level presence, that using the national brand and making a difference at a local level, and sitting on the Age UK board, influence in terms of CCGs and NHS trusts. So even though we might not tender for the contracts, which we don't tend to, we might have spot contracts, our owners do influence in terms of the way this is what great quality care can look like.
Right.
And actually, from a perspective, this could make the limited budget of an NHS trust stretch that bit further, because it prevents readmissions. And in certain areas of the country, we're doing that really well. And as we see this year, there's going to be a drastic change in terms of the political landscape and the social care landscape. Our owners can really have a loud voice in that local community with the local MPs, with the local commissioning groups, local authorities, etc., to change the way that we look after older people. And that's why franchising is so unique. And then people ask me, we have got the largest amount of outstandings or exceptionals a lot across the 4 countries in terms of how we deliver care with the regulatory bodies. And people say to me, well, how can Home Instead do this? How can a brand with so many offices achieve this? And it's because it's franchising.
Yep.
It's because that's local level, because the franchise owners, they haven't just bought a business. They've bought a kind of way of life, really, isn't it? In terms of they've done it for that different reason, and it's about making a difference. And therefore, national brand, local influence, that's what really sets it apart.
So can I ask you a question about innovation? I know it's really, really important at Home Instead. How does the model continue to evolve? Is there anything coming in the near future, for example?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we are the only care provider, health provider, to win the Queen's Award for Innovation way back in 2016.
Yeah.
And we did this because our model of care was innovative in the way we delivered care, and that was relationship-led care, which, to be honest, is a shock, because that's how care should be delivered. But it's great that we won the Queen's Award for Innovation. So innovation can come in different forms. So we're innovating in terms of how we expand the care that we offer. We're looking at healthcare at home. Why is that important? Because, as I said before, we are struggling in terms of how we look after older people with the age wave. So we need to look after them more in communities and obviously in their own home. And that's where Home Instead can play a big part. So that means as people are living longer, they're living longer with long-term conditions.
Right. Yeah.
Therefore, we can do a lot more of that, obs measurement, wound dressing, whatever, to keep people in their own home. That's one way we're innovating. Another way was looking at nail care in terms of, older people, as they get older, they get more frail. Got to cut the toenails. May seem very simple to the 3 of us sat around here. But for an older person, that's really important. And sometimes they struggle. So go into these areas as well. And obviously in terms of technology, as I said before, Honor Technologies acquired us 2 years ago. And we are looking at what the ecosystem that surrounds the older person. So it's about delivering great quality care. That's paramount, and that'll never change. But, as a person ages, there's a way that in terms of when the care pros, in the client's home, if she's running low on food, open the fridge, needs some milk, direct order goes through to Ocado, M&S. Next day when the care pro's there, she puts the milk in the coffee and back in the fridge. That's really exciting care at home, and that's the trajectory of where we're going to be going. So we're doing things like living care, healthcare at home, nail care, which is great at the moment and expansive and different than our competitors. But long term, it's that ecosystem you build around the older person to support them to have a great quality of life in their own home. That's the innovation that we're looking at.
So the reality is the innovation doesn't actually change what we do or the model or the focus of home instead. It brings in new services that actually expand on keeping an older person in their own home.
Yeah, 100%. Because as I said before, when you evolve a brand, when you evolve a business, when you evolve a franchise network, the hook and the difference is it's about relationships. So it's about how can you adopt that technology that it's still going to be about relationships. And even the milk example I gave before, that's just a great example. You're still going to have the care pro who's got the great relationship, who still had the introduction, really understands the client's needs. So they actually order the right milk, for example. They order skimmed instead of semi-skimmed. Makes them a silly thing. But that's the difference again. It's those finer details that make Homestead true unique. So culture evolves with strategy, and people get it confused sometimes. But the value set, the reason why, if you keep that consistent, the brand will evolve.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Ruth?
Yeah, I think one of the things I was just reflecting on then was technology in particular can actually free up time and capacity for care professionals to spend more time doing what's really important, which is that kind of relationship side of things. So imagine the world where the care pro can get that milk delivered. That means that they're not having to go to the shop and leave the client in the home whilst they're doing their errands. So we believe that in the future we can really use technology and new services to free up time to do the more important things like the relationship side of stuff.
Right. So it
Quite
doesn't
exciting.
It doesn't replace the relationship-led side of it. It allows for more of that.
100%.
It's an enhancement.
Right.
It's kind of, so the older person today isn't the older person tomorrow. So how that older person will use technology, how they adopt technology, how they embrace it will be very different.
Yeah.
The relationship side, people still will always want to talk to people. That may be by some remote access as well as we get on in time. But as Ruth said, a lot of the technology of today is freeing up the tasks so people have got more time to spend with someone. So I was on a Silverline call a couple of years ago, and I was speaking to Margaret, and she hadn't spoke to someone for 3 days. She'd been talking to the wall. The fact that she could actually ring someone was kind of second best in terms of, but she was actually interacting with someone. The fact that we can go into someone's home and speak to our clients like Margaret, and still support her in what she needs to do to keep her well and safe in terms of errands, as Ruth said, that's the difference.
So Ruth, as Home Instead as a brand grows and continues to evolve, we've got more multi-unit and enterprise owners. Do you want to kind of put some context around that?
Absolutely. So we talk about the franchisor journey quite a bit, actually. So when we first started out, it was one franchisee to one territory. And we really built the scale of the brand by keeping to that model. What we've started to see now is as more resales are becoming onto the market, and also the type of individual that we're attracting is that they've got a bigger ambition to do more than one. So we've really learned that we do feel that multi-unit and enterprise ownership is a path of travel for us. It doesn't mean that all franchise territories will be operated in that way across the UK. We still want single territories and single units. We still believe that, as we said before, our USP is our people. So having franchisees out in the territories, in the communities is still essential to the model. But a blend of the network will be multi-unit and enterprise, and that will enable us to scale. It will enable us to use the technology that we've talked about to really kind of reach more clients. And I think from a living care perspective, it is a relatively new service that we're rolling out at scale at the moment. multi-unit and enterprise are really able to centralise their living care services to be able to really make sure that they're using their care professionals at the right time in the right way across their multi-territories. So yeah, again, really excited about what this can bring for us as a brand as we move forward.
Is there anything that you'd like to add as well, Martin?
Yeah, I think the other thing which we've probably not talked about as much at the moment in terms, because we've been focused on the clients and that's really important, but it's also the care pros.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, in terms of the difference in the training that we've actually given to our care pros, and in terms of the multi-unit and enterprise, they've got a body of people, like 400 care pros, potentially some of these, multi-site operations. And they're using our unique training, that dementia awareness training, Princess Royal training for end of life, that really sets them apart. And actually, yes, we need to touch more and more clients, but actually we need to touch more and more care pros, because unfortunately within social care, care pros aren't recognised for the great work they do. They're not seen as a professional organisation. And it's really important that Homestead plays a part in changing those perceptions.
Yep.
So obviously when you have multi-units and enterprise who can own 5, potentially 10 offices, their voices in their community can be louder, yes, for the clients, but also for the care professionals. And that's why we actually changed the name to Care Professional, to help professionalise what they do, to have them some parity with the healthcare assistants in the NHS. And that's really, really important for us. So it's the enterprise can play that crucial role. And as Ruth said, the thought leadership presence, the power you've got in terms of, I'm looking after, 1,000 clients, employing, 450 care pros, whatever it may be, in the communities around you, in the presence of local NHS trust, local whoever it may be, give them some voice then that potentially they didn't have when it was a single site, or it was more difficult to have. So, this new evolution of our strategy, as Ruth said, really means we can expand the brand, expand the awareness, and obviously in terms of then drive the efficiencies for the office, but to free up people to spend more time with the clients and developing the care pros.
You know what, Luke, actually, Martin made a really good point there. I think one of the things that we're really excited about with the launch of Healthcare at Home and the new services is that ongoing development of care professionals. The opportunity to be able to upskill themselves on those type of services is going to be really important to some of the people in our care pro pool. And so, yeah, I think that's also kind of a massive tick for them from their own personal development.
So as the Homestead brand continues to grow, I think we've got about 255 offices now. How do we maintain that culture that we've spent so long building?
We talk a lot about partnership at National Office, the partnership, and we deliberately use the word partnership, not relationship. The word partnership for us, we spend a lot of time exploring, is it in a good place? What does it actually mean? But we really elevate the partnership through our Franchise Exchange Council, for example, which are nominated people who are representation of the network. That we meet with them 3 to 4 times a year, and we work with them to really think about what new services we want to roll out, or if we've got a new initiative or program that we want to look at. They're able to really give their view, as well as also use them as a body to be able to understand what's going on the network. So that's one way. I guess just yesterday, Martin and I were out in an office having lots of pastries and lots of food. So we're in there at local level, keeping our kind of, I guess, understanding fresh of what's actually going on at local level, making sure that one-on-one, that contact is still happening. We do a lot of facilitation around peer support through our Performax programs, and franchisees also have a really strong peer network support as well. They're more than happy to pick up the phone to one another and kind of share ideas and best practice. So super proud of that, really.
And I think the wider ecosystem of Homestead is made not just to the owners, it's made of obviously in terms of key players and care pros. So we do a lot in terms of facilitation. So in terms of getting those guys together, we have our national conference every year, which is our biggest event, and we do some fun things at the conference. We've even had a dance or two in front of them all.
We did,
and that's really important because we never want to be seen in the ivory tower. We want to be seen that we're still connected to the network. But again, it's coming back to the hook. It's coming back to why we do what we do. and we talk and we listen. And sometimes, you know, those conversations can be difficult conversations. But as Ruth said, in any partnership, to move forward, you've got to have those difficult conversations. You've got to really explain the reason why we're doing what we do, and that's by involvement for all key stakeholders. So it's obviously with the national office team, it's with the franchise owners and the key players, and obviously the care pros. So yes, how you communicate, how you devolve those in terms of strategies and in terms of the way forward changes. So it's changed from when Ruth and I joined, we had 40 offices, now 255. We had 12 members of the national office team. We now got over 62. How you take people with you does change. But again, if you come back to the value set and you keep on hooking the people onto the why you do what you do, yeah, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it binds them together. You've always got, we want to expand the world's capacity to care. That's our global vision. That's what we hook onto. And that's what keeps that community, and it is a community because they're not in competition with each other. That's what makes franchising so unique. There isn't I always say to a new prospect, there won't be a problem or there won't be an experience you come across that someone else in the UK or maybe even globally, don't forget the largest home care provider globally by a country mile, that someone hasn't come across they can help you go through, as well as obviously the national office team.
And we actually endorse picking up the phone. I know you mentioned that, Ruth, that actually it's not bothering someone, it's not bothering people at national office, it's not bothering your neighbours because we're all working towards the exact same thing.
Yeah, the office we were with yesterday, actually, she basically said that she was reaching out to a relatively new franchisee. Right. She described her journey. She's a successful owner today, but she has had some bumps in the road, and she could see that this other franchisee that started relatively new was in some of the places that she'd already been. So she was reaching out, offering support, wanting to help, giving us some ideas and tools and best practice, which I think that's really, an amazing kind of organisation to be part of. Whenever do you ever have that kind of opportunity to listen and learn and understand from somebody that's already been on that path that you're currently on?
And just picking up from that point as well, in terms of, when you run a business, it's a lonely place. You've got very few people you can talk to, very few people you can trust even. And again, in a franchise network, as Ruth said, yes, there's someone you can talk to in terms of that trodden path. But it's also someone you can talk to in terms of when you're having to make those tough decisions as a leader, because you do. When you're having to make those difficult decisions in some of maybe your team members or maybe some clients potentially, you can make it with the advice of others around you. I mean, that's why you buy a franchise.
Yeah.
Really fundamental. Yes, you buy it for the model. That's really important, but you actually buy it for that infrastructure, community spirit. Because as I say, leadership can be tough, but it's nowhere near as tough when you're in a franchise network.
And I suppose one more thing would be good to explore around this is how we at National Office learn from our local offices as well. I know we've spoken about that communication and it is two ways, but could you both maybe comment on how we adapt what we do at National Office based on the people that are running our local offices and what they know from being on the ground?
Yeah, I suppose we've talked about the model, and at the very heart of the model is the kind of the facets that we've mentioned, but even just the way that we've evolved the support aspect. So we launched our franchise journey program in 2019. That was built off the back of experiences of all those franchisees beforehand, understanding at what point in time do certain things need to happen or what support would be needed. And at the very heart of that was the well-being and emotional journey support, similar to the kind of the point I've just mentioned about that individual franchisee that is kind of 2 years in, needing to really kind of kick on, but needing to get that energy to really push on. So we've learned a lot and adapted our model a lot and adapted our support a lot based on the experience of franchisees at local level, and also not just UK. We spend a lot of time speaking to the guys in the US. They're ahead of us by about 10 years.
Yeah.
So understanding the journey that they've been on, we're able to kind of sometimes head things off at the pass as well. So yeah, definitely always listen to the franchisees. We have a franchisee voice at National Office to be able to understand what it is that they need. Because if they're successful, we're successful, and we're reaching more clients and offering more employment to more care pros, aren't we? So it just makes sense.
Yeah, it's a great point. And just building that. Don't forget, we own 2 offices. So what that means is, I'm a director of both, nominated individual of both. It means we're in the trenches. We know how to run an office, what it looks like. We know the trials, the tribulations, the drama, about driving revenue, et cetera, et cetera. So that keeps us rooted in terms of what we do. It keeps us rooted in terms of the care we provide for the clients. But also, then when we're talking to franchisees, yes, we're not in it day to day, but we've still got that appreciation. So, in franchising, it's impossible not to have a pilot operation. Because if you don't have a pilot operation, you don't know what the business is about, and you don't know the challenges in the office. So we know the challenges of trying to,
Implement new tech.
implement technology, recruit the care professionals, get into the key referral providers like NHS. It's tough.
Yeah.
And we use, Nick and the team are pilot offices to keep us grounded in that. And then that, as Ruth said, that in terms of, talking to the franchisees and using these things, your ears, is really important in listening, because sometimes you can have an answer in your head before the question's been asked. And its most important thing is to listen, reflect. Speed isn't always the best way forward. It's, it's just time to look at all the different avenues and then listen to what the franchisee is saying. Then you can help them go forward.
So we're about to bring the episode to a close. What's next? What are you both excited about?
I'm really excited about what the multi-unit enterprise pathway looks like. We're just starting out on that, and Martin just mentioned the 2 pilot offices, and we're learning there as well, actually, because Nick does look after 2 very different territories: urban, rural. Some have got a kind of a higher value in terms of demographics. So really starting to understand and learn about that, the care continuum, the new services that we're offering, just the doors that we've got to be able to open from a thought leadership perspective, and to really kind of educate what Home Instead can actually really do. The difference we can really make, I think, is also the thing that really makes me get up every morning and come to work, apart from obviously you guys. But I think that's my part, really.
I say I'm really excited about the influence that Home Instead can make at a national level. I mean, for me, if we can start to let other people really embrace the difference it can make in keeping old people well and safe in their own home, instead of going to care homes, that, or the relationship side of the model, that can prevent hospital readmissions. The fact that giving people choice, in our country, people aren't given choice about how they age. And it's really, if we can start to make that difference, that's what I'm really excited about. And we're just scratching the surface at the moment. We've got so much more to achieve, and that's what makes me excited. So every day, I was doing an interview this morning. The lady said to me, "Well, why are you still here after 12 years?" And I said, "Because we've not even got started. We really haven't scratched the surface. Yes, we're the largest quality home care brand by some way. We're one of the highest quality franchise brands by some way, but we're still at the starting line. We've still got so many other clients that we can touch. We've got so many other, in terms of policies, we can influence, and that goes for franchising as well. In terms of franchising is an evolving sector. It's not recognised within the business community. We can play a part in that. We can start to drive that. So it's not just influencing in the health and social care space, which is critical, but it's also in the franchising arena as well.
Fantastic. It's really, really exciting to think that we've changed so many lives already, whether it's care professionals, our franchisees, clients, or their families. But like you said, we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more that can be done, and that impact is it's so personally exciting for me as well. And I know for a lot of people that we work with at National Office. So look, thank you so much for joining today, guys. I appreciate your insight, and yeah, thank you to everyone who's listened.